Just laying around on the job today. I'm on the creeper and I'm going to work on the cold side a little bit on the slick Rick. But before I do, we're doing some creeper meditation. So we get under here and we look at how much room we have with the nose on. I've got the turbo clocked just about like I want it. You can kind of see how much room we have to get up to the throttle body. Pretty good amount of room. If you rotate the turbo, I always leave the turbo loose where I can move it around while I'm under the car. But if you move the turbo, well, can't hardly twist it. You move it that way, you lose room because you're getting close to this upright here, and you're also getting off the peak of the hood. So where we're gonna go with it is about right there, because the peak of the hood is right here. That's the most clearance we're gonna have. Plus it'll look pretty slick. It'll have just a slight sweep to it going up to the throttle body. So always put everything on the car like it's going to be before you start running piping, because you will waste a lot of time if you overlook something with clearance. And take it from me, I have built, well, you look at Steve's Camaro that we recently did a few months ago. I built one side almost all the way of the headers, and then I put the hood on, or I think I built half of each side. Either way, I put the hood on and it touched the hood on the other side, so I basically had to start over. So you don't never want to run into that. Always check your clearance before you ever start. And with this, we're going to have plenty, so I think we're good enough just to eyeball the cold pipe going up to the throttle body. So we're going to pull the front end back off, and I'm going to start laying this thing out, get the alpha lock welded to the compressor housing. And we've got a bunch of piping here from Race Parts Solutions, and we're going to be doing 4-inch on the cold side. So I'm going to start laying that out. We got all the downpipe stuff here, and we've even got the flanges, but we don't have any clamps. They were out of clamps, so he's got those in today. Today is Wednesday, and he's shipping those out, so I'll have those tomorrow. So I should be able to roll pretty good on the downpipes and the cold side for the rest of the week. Then I'll probably save doing the hot side and stuff for one of the last things, just to make sure the wastegates, everything is placed the way I want them, according to everything else that's got to go on under the hood. So let's get started. What's up, guys? Another day. Got the cold side mocked up. Looks pretty awesome, right? At least I think so. Nice and clean. So I got a little group chat going with the guys at LS Nasty, just so we all stay on the same page. So I'm sending them pictures yesterday of the cold side mocked up. See if I can get it where it'll focus on my phone. Chris says, oh boy, that's slick. Chris actually owns the car. John said, is that 4 or 5 inch? Can you put the reducer on the turbo side so it's 5 inch all the way up to the throttle body? All the big horsepower guys that spray in the charge pipe swear by the larger diameter. If it's possible, I think 5 inch is the way to go. I know Proline uses 6 inch with their stuff. So we're gonna fix him up. Oh yes, that's more like it. Here at Rock Solid, we care about getting the most efficiency out of your cold piping. With this 8-inch corrugated cold pipe, you will see sub-zero temperatures in Slick Rick. And with the leaves falling off this time of year, you can also give your lawnmower a break. Drive Slick Rick through your yard. Let this 140mm turbo suck your leaves up, pump them into this Proline engine, and dispose of them with no waste to clean up after. So that's your funny for the video. I told John I would kind of roast them on this cold pipe deal. So let's get this off and talk about some real data. Not necessarily IAT data, but just measuring data. So on this setup, coming out of your turbo is obviously pretty small, which, you know, that's going to be that way because of the casting. Stepping it up to 4-inch here, it's 5-inch here, but if you look inside this throttle body adapter, it goes to an ellipse or an oval in simpler terms. When you squish a circle down to an oval, you are reducing the area of that circle. So the area of that, or the measurement of that ellipse, is roughly somewhere close to 6 inches by like 3.5 or 3 3/4. If you do the math on that, that comes out to somewhere between 4.5 and 5. So it's less than the throttle body adapter. So when I first seen that, I knew that it was less than 5-inch going into the intake, considering the adapter. And I know that they've stretched it out and got it as close as they can to 5-inch to kind of match the adapter. But just want everybody to know that just like with oval exhaust, if you buy, just for instance, 4-inch Vibrant oval exhaust, it's advertised as 4-inch. But when you do the math on the area of the ellipse, it only comes out to about 3.6, and varying brands will vary on how big they actually are. So you just have to consider that just because there's a hole here that's got this opening, if I squish it down, the opening gets smaller. Not just because you still have the same perimeter, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same. I wasn't really good at math, still not that good at math, unless it's maybe counting money. But stuff like that, you have to really consider. Just like wastegate area, the difference in like a 50mm wastegate and a 60mm wastegate is a very huge difference. Even though it's not but 10mm, when you do the surface area of that valve in there, there's a huge difference when stepping up when you're getting in that size. So just a lot of things to think about. And with stuff like this, whenever I do a setup on a car like this, I try to make it pretty simple, easy to work on, straightforward. I try to not do anything that's unnecessary. And that's kind of my argument here. I don't think that they will really see any noticeable difference going from 4-inch to 5-inch on the pipe coming out of this turbo. It's just not, I don't think it'll be noticeable, especially with 2 or 3 injectors going in the cold pipe. And where we're gonna have to do this, we're gonna have to come out of here, the blow-off valve is gonna have to be really close here, because you've not got but about 12 inches here that you're gonna be able to stack 3 injectors. And they're probably gonna have to be somewhere right in here. So not far away from the throttle body at all. So not really a long distance to get the air saturated. It's more of just getting the whole intake saturated on the inside versus the air pre-throttle body saturated. So we're gonna go ahead and do 5-inch because it's already been brought up, and just dealing with customers over the years, if they get something in their mind, you might as well follow through with what they really want and not try to push against it too much, because they're not going to be happy whenever they get the car back if it wasn't exactly what they want. And I wouldn't be either, I understand that. But I've only had, this is probably only the third time that I have mocked something up and been satisfied with it myself, and had the customer push back a little bit and say, well, you know, I want to do something a little bit different. And that kind of catches me off guard, because I'm used to people just liking what I do. And so we're going to do 5-inch. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not talking bad about John or any of them guys, but I actually made a post on the Turbo Bullet page trying to see if anybody had real data where they had changed nothing, which I know nobody would probably do something that simple, but go from a 4-inch pipe to a 5-inch pipe in maybe a 20-inch run of pipe, and seen any increase in power, not changing anything else. And I know usually people, whenever they do change something like that, they're also changing a turbo, or they're also changing something else on the motor, so it's not really back-to-back data where you could see any type of change. But I would love to see if there was a change going from 4-inch to 5-inch in this short of a run on an application like this, because I believe a 4-inch pipe will flow 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower pretty easily, especially with injectors in the pipe. You know, it's going to cool it down a lot. So we'll finish this video out, and we'll get this cold side built. I'm probably going to have to cut the alpha lock back off. I videoed, and I might show just a little bit of me welding this stuff on, which I might not, because it's all going to be ditched anyway. But with the way the alpha lock works, if I can get it off, hang on a second. Yeah, I'll just throw the camera. The way the alpha lock works is when you spin it, it comes up like that. So this flange on this side is going to stay on the pipe. Well, if we put this reducer, which is, where's that? There it is. If we put this reducer on the alpha lock, then this ring is not going to be able to come up high enough to get the O-ring on. And also, I'm going to have to weld it with the ring on here, which I'm afraid it'll discolor the ring, because the anodizing usually turns orange whenever it sees some heat. So I think we're going to have to cut this off and put just a standard, like a clamshell style dual seal on that to get it to work. And hopefully I'll have enough room to get the 5-inch pipe up off of this, because the radius on the 5-inch pipe is not near as tight as that, and we're getting really close to the clearance on this as well with our hood clearance here, and I don't want to cut no holes in the hood. So let's see what we can get figured out. about 20 minutes of cutting and grinding on this weld. We've got it pretty much smoothed up to where it looks good again and is a good starting point to weld to. The benefit to it being built up like this and not cutting the weld completely off, rather just smoothing it and making it look like a big bead roll, is now we are closer to 4-inch on our size. So it won't be near as hard to weld as it was before, because it was more like 3.5 coming out of the turbo. And we was putting a 4-inch flange on it. There was a pretty big gap, and I welded it on the inside and then on the outside, and I was having to use a lot of filler rod. So now it'll be a little bit better fit, you can see there. So I ordered a 5-inch dual seal from Race Part Solutions this morning, and I'm waiting on that to get here before we start trying to fit this 5-inch pipe on the car like they want. Well, unfortunately, we're probably gonna have to wait a couple days to get a 5-inch dual seal connection from Race Parts, and so we're really at a stopping point on the cold side. What I've got, this is a 4-inch that I had both the flanges, and this is just a random clamp. This is one of the really old ones, something I had on the shelf that's missing a pin out of it. But because they're all the same thickness, when you put the flanges together, I can measure. Right there, we've got roughly 2 inches. So I'll cut a 2-inch piece of 5-inch pipe, and I'll put it as the spacer between the reducer. That way I can continue building the cold side even without the flange. And then when it gets here, I can just put it on, and that'll be that. It's a constant game we play of you get to a point and you're missing just one key piece of the puzzle, and you have to completely stop what you're doing. That kind of bugs me, but there's no way you can really have everything in stock to where you can just keep going, you know, non-stop. You're always going to hit a roadblock somewhere. So right now we're just going to use a spacer so I can keep working. We got the 5-inch mocked up, and it looks like we're gonna barely clear. So that's good news. LS Nasty crew, you can have your 5-inch pipe after all. So we're gonna wrap up this video. I've got some more parts coming in tomorrow morning, early AM supposedly, and we'll get started on welding the cold side, putting the blow-off valve, figure out where we're gonna do that, the injectors, and so on. But the whole point of this video, if you miss everything else, you guys that own shops, you guys that do stuff on the side for people, if you have a customer that's paying you and they bring up an idea that they want to do, listen to them, but understand that they're paying you to do the work, obviously because they can't do it or don't want to do it or need your guidance. So your input and your guidance is very important to your customer. But if you don't have a solid argument of why they shouldn't do something, then sometimes it's okay just to do what they want to do. Just like in this cold pipe thing, I just was rolling with the 4-inch because I didn't see any issue with it. I thought it looked pretty slick. It was going to give us a little bit more room, a little bit easier to work with. And whenever they seen it, they wanted 5-inch, and we talked back and forth about it. The jokes have been non-stop since it got brought up last night. We've been talking about ordering one of them 14-inch diesel truck tips to put on the bull horns on each side, put basketballs in them to stop the rain from getting in, just all kinds of stuff. Just trying to pick fun at them as much as I can, and them with me and whatever else. But bottom line is, I didn't have a solid data argument that we should stay with 4-inch over going to 5, and 5-inch is what they wanted. So even though it's a little bit harder to get that thing on there with the radius and stuff, it can still be done just fine. It ain't that big a deal, and I'm gonna give in and do it because that's what they want. Like I said, they're only like the 3rd customer that's ever done that to me, and I could name the other 2, but I'm not going to in the video. But they're really good customers, but they also kind of caught me off guard whenever I had just rolled through and didn't really ask them. I just done it because I thought it looked awesome, and they're like, well, I want to change that. And then I was like, oh, you know, why? And all this stuff. And then whenever that happens, that kind of knocks the wind out of me and kind of throttles me back a little bit. And then it takes me a while to get my confidence built back up where I can just do stuff without asking the customer, which I should always ask the customer, but sometimes I just freight train through stuff, and I've got a vision for these builds, and I'm just attacking my vision just as hardcore as I can, and sometimes I forget to keep the customer updated on every little detail of what I'm doing. But in saying that, some customers really can't handle all the details. If you give them too much information, then they start thinking too much, then they start asking all the internet forums and all the pages and all that stuff. And if you take your car to a shop you trust, don't get on the internet and let the internet build your car. Just, you know, if you got enough confidence to spend tens of thousands of dollars with a shop, just trust their judgment. And if you don't trust their judgment, don't take your car there. So anyway, listen to your customers. It'll all be good. Talk to your customers. That's the main thing. And when you finally come to an agreement, give them crap about it and never stop. See you next video.